Is this thing on?
The first one was fear, for some of the reasons I've talked about. The second was probably resignation. I knew it was going to happen. You could see it coming. Come on. Kamala had no chance. She had 100 days to campaign. She had no chance.
Right.
And by doing it the way they decided to do it, by Joe's dropping out, we're basically forcing Kamala Harris on you. It pissed off a lot of people who probably would have voted for a Democrat as candidate had they had the opportunity to have a say in who that person was. I know a lot of people either didn't vote or voted for Trump because they're, oh, well, here's the Democratic Party again, shoving a candidate down our throats. And despite what I'm sure a lot of people will think that statement is, it's not a criticism of Kamala Harris. It's just how people felt. I was mad. I was grateful when Joe dropped out, don't get me wrong. But I kept thinking, okay, we do not have time to run a primary. I don't know how they got around some of the states that had already passed the deadline for a presidential candidate to be on the ballot because there's deadlines that you have for every state to declare who that candidate's going to be. And some of the states, when Joe Biden dropped out, that deadline had already passed.
Mm.
Clearly, whatever hoops they had to jump through to make that change, those changes happened in those states where Kamala was on the ballot and not Joe Biden. Or I don't know, maybe it said Joe Biden and they just replaced. I don't know how they did it because I honestly was not paying that close attention to that part of it, completely out of our hands.
Right.
But these are things that people hate government. They don't, and it's just more proof that, well, it's out of our hands anyway. Why should I bother? So resignation there, a third feeling, outright fury. I'm furious because I was very involved for about 6 years. I had to step back because it was toxic and it was not good for my mental health. I miss it, but I also know that it was the right thing to do. But I also know that there are people that I met during the process who were newer like me and people who've been doing it for decades, that I'm friends with some of them still. And we work our butts off and we get nowhere. And that is infuriating because it's the definition of insanity. Just keep doing the same thing over and over. And yet there's those of us that are out here going, what if we tried it differently this time? What if we did something a little bit different this time? No, we can't do that. And
Right.
usually there's never a good reason. And that is infuriating
Yeah.
because, again, there are actual lives on the line. And I'm really scared of what's going to happen in the next few years.
Yeah. Well, you said a couple of things that I want to touch on. The illusion of choice.
Yeah,
When you talk about, oh, the system is set up to allow for a presidential candidate to be on the ballot, and you get an example of the established candidate circumventing that process somehow
right.
just because somebody dropped out, like it leaves the question of, do I have a choice anyway? You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're right,
Well,
that does
there's
disenfranchise
three
people.
words that would change everything. And I think spike fear into the heart of the Democratic Party. It's
Mm.
ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
And if we implemented that, oh, it's too confusing. It is not confusing.
Right.
People understand it. Kids learn the rules of sports and games when they're little tiny kids, toddlers, and then elementary school. If kids can understand how to learn the rules of games and sports, we as adults can understand how to learn the rules of the game of politics. And when it's ranked choice voting, it's so simple. You vote for the candidate you want to win the most, and then maybe the second is the person you think has the best chance. But then everybody's voice is heard and in a much more authentic way. I have a good friend who is getting his master's in political science right now at Georgetown, and his thesis is on ranked choice voting, and it's fantastic. He's got some really interesting information and some data that he's uncovered that I think is a game changer. I can't wait to read the final product. I'll send it to you when after he submits it and sends it to me. But yeah, I think ranked choice voting would change the game for everybody. But that's a whole different topic. But it's germane to what we're talking about because it starts to dismantle the two-party system at least a little bit.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Thank you for giving hopefully a strategy for some people to adopt. And
It's one.
yeah, I know. But the one of the other things you said, I don't want to lose it. It was the illusion of choice, and it was the ground game.
Oh yeah.
I'm in politics not only as a volunteer, and I mean the volunteer aspect of politics. I mean, but that's a whole conversation in and of itself. Because when we
Right.
have candidates every cycle asking for money, asking for your time, asking for your body
Right.
to help them get elected, and sometimes you're going against things that you like believe in terms of like for me, I'm a everybody person. Like I'm a universalist. So like I believe everybody has value. Everybody
Yep.
should have a seat at the table. Inclusion is great. It can be messy, but it means that we value everyone. And I will stand by that to the day that I die.
I am on the same. I agree.
Right, right. A lot of us do. But the
Yeah.
thing is that when you're in democratic politics or establishment politics that doesn't like to change, like when you are given a list to go door knock, and the first question you come to your mind is like,
Right.
okay, these are all likely Democratic voters. Why aren't we reaching out to people who are Republican? Why don't we just hit every door on this block?
Right.
Oh, well, we don't want to focus energy on trying to change votes. We just want to make sure the people who are likely to vote for us do vote for us. And like
Yeah. How's that
that,
working out for us?
you know what I'm saying? And it's like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like if you
Right.
want the most votes, why the heck aren't you allowing us as volunteers to knock on every door? Like I just
Yeah.
that baffled me. And while I understand in some races, like that's what you have to focus on because that's the only way you can win, like I get that. But like this is America. We should be empowering everybody to vote, everybody to be at the seat of civic engagement so that those decisions that are made have an inclusive, participation rather than just the people who are likely going to vote and the people.
I really believe that hearts and minds are changed one conversation at a time.
Yeah,
I have a small story. I'll go
please.
quickly with it,
No.
but I ordered an Uber or Lyft or whatever to take me somewhere, and I had my Bernie Sanders sweatshirt on. This was 2020, like in January, February, before everything went pandemic, and before Joe Biden was the candidate, before our primary, right? And I got in the car and it was just covered with religious leaflets. I'm like, oh God, here we go. Because I have my Bernie Sanders, and I'm like, oh, please be a nice person. Because it's Spokane, you never know what you're going to get. And he was very nice. And within the first 5 minutes, so you're a Bernie Sanders supporter. And I said, yep. And I wasn't, that's all I was. And he goes, I voted for Donald Trump in 2016. I said, yeah, I know a lot of people who did. And he said, I don't know who to vote for this time around. And I said, oh, I'm thinking maybe he wants to have a conversation. So he said, yeah. He goes, I'm a pastor at a church in Medical Lake,
Hmm.
Airway Heights area. And he said, but my son is so sick and I have all these medical bills. That's why I'm driving Lyft. He said, I can't afford, and my son's going to die if he doesn't get this care. He goes, and I don't know what to do. He said, and I don't, he goes, I don't, and Donald Trump, he goes, he's not helping us. I said, oh, guys, I'm so sorry to hear about your son. That's awful. He said, obviously, I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter, but I'll tell you, he's a big proponent of universal health care. And that's something that would take that stress out of your hands. There's nothing more stressful or horrifying than having a sick child, right? But then not being able to know if you're going to be able to get them the care they need because you can't afford it it just adds an insult to injury. And he said, yeah, but he's a socialist. I said, that's part of the marketing that happens with the politics. Yeah, I said, honestly, by the definition of socialism, the true definition, the American military is the biggest socialist organization in the world. It just is. It's funded by the government, full stop. And it's a socialist organization. People don't want to talk about that because it ruins the narrative and it dismantles that divisiveness. Because, oh, I never thought about it that way. And we talked a little bit more and exchanged contact information. And then after the primary, he reached out, he texted me and he said, I just wanted you to know that I voted for Bernie Sanders. I said, oh, that's great. And he goes, I really hope that he gets the nomination and I hope he wins because he's the only one who seems to care about us. And I think that at the end of the day is another thing. And honestly, it's something Kamala Harris did well. I think she genuinely tried to show people that she cares. Whether or
Yeah.
not people believe it, that's another story. It's something Hillary Clinton did a really bad job of. But it's
Yeah.
something that matters to people. Whether or not you believe it, I think people who voted for Donald Trump think that he actually cares about them.
Hmm.
Maybe not as an individual, but as an idea. And that is something that we need to really get better at. And going door to door and having one-on-one conversations like this, that is how you change hearts and minds.
Hmm.
It's about talking to people about their needs and what best suits their needs. And more often than not, it's us. It's not them. And yet, time and time again, we lose because we're not having those conversations.
Right. Right. Shake my whole head. Okay, and I pulled up the definition of socialism for folks because you made a good point there. The Oxford language, which is the first pop-up for our Google search, a political and economic theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. And if you've ever been in the military, they have military brand food. But I mean, they have everything is purchased and distributed to members of the military in a way that creates uniformity.
I don't think it's a bad thing.
Uh,
Clearly, we do a pretty good job of it, given that we have the largest military in the entire world. I do. Are there things that need to change? Obviously, yes. It's a whole different conversation. I think that our soldiers are not paid enough, and there's a whole bunch of other things anyway. But yeah, no, it is. And snowplows, good or bad, we go down,
mhm.
but our tax dollars pay for them. Technically, those are socialists. If you look at that, we as Americans have allowed ourselves to be the victims of words that have been weaponized.
Wow.
And if people can take themselves out of that visceral feeling of whatever that word means and really just look at what is truly being, what the message is, what's being said, what people are actually saying, I think people would really have a better idea of where our candidates are coming from.
Sure. And it's not just what people are actually saying, it's what people are actually experiencing as well.
Correct.
Right? Because I mean, I will take this example, man, America, right? Over the
Oh
past 10
yeah.
years with the social justice movements and women's liberation and Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ proliferation and freedom, like the top of the hegemony, the white male has felt minimized and it has and I mean, take your pick. There's jokes in movies and TV shows over the last 10 years that say it's not good to be a white man right now, right? Because the social pressure. But when you have that group of people experiencing oppression to the degree that they want out and they want to retaliate, right? And like that's a lot of what has fueled the Trump victory is
Yes.
men saying, nah, nah. Like, I mean, just
Well,
nah.
it's been their turn for so long. I think they feel like they're entitled
Of
for it to
course.
be their term forever.
Of course.
Jasmine Crockett, who she is,
I don't.
she is US, she's a representative from Texas. She's
Okay.
a black woman. She is brilliant. I believe she's an attorney. Go Google her latest.
Article.
It's the latest thing that's gone viral. She goes viral a lot. But she was talking about exactly this, about how the Trump administration wants to dismantle the DEI organization from within the government and basically taking any DEI, any quote unquote affirmative action, whatever you want to call it, out of the consideration process for government employees. And she talks about it in a way that is just, I wish that people had been talking about it this way forever because it's basically, guess what, white men, you are no longer the majority. I think she said it's something like white men make up 36% of America.
Mm,
So 36%, you aren't in the majority anymore. So guess what? We want a representative government, which means you get 36% of the seats, theoretically.
sure.
But at the end of the day, white men have been in charge of everything for so long. It scares them. and people don't like to be scared. It's change. People don't like change. And that sense of entitlement combined with the fear and the change, it's just too much for them. They
Yeah.
can't. And we're at this point now where, and there's plenty of white women that are in the same boat
Sure.
because we have been taught through society and culture in America that that's how the power structure works.
Mm.
And it works for a lot of white women. Also, it also doesn't work for anyway.
Right. It's a double edge, right?
It really is.
There's the, oh, I'm a white woman, and you compare a white woman to a black woman. It's like hierarchically, the white woman has more historical power for
Right.
general, right? But then you compare a white woman to a white man, and she's down at the bottom of that
Right.
hierarchy again, right? And so I hear what you're saying, and man, okay. So the next question I have for you is, what do you fear most about the next Trump presidency?
Oh gosh. I think I've kind of already spoken to this, but I fear for genuine lives being lost or dramatically changed for the worse. And I know that people are very dismissive when, oh, you're being paranoid, but oh, that could never happen in the United States. My daughter's 29. When she came to me in tears one day and said, Mom, I don't want to be put in a concentration camp. And she's the brave one in this family. She's always the one in 2016. What do you want to do if Trump wins? I'm not letting that orange asshole kick me out of this country. It's my country too. She's been the one that's been brave. But when she comes to me and says things like that, it's scary.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, that could never happen. I'm like, really? Talk to the Japanese folks who were put in internment camps. Talk
Hmm.
to the Native American folks who we stole everything from them. We are living on stolen land. What do you mean it can't happen here? It absolutely can. And it has. There's
Hmm.
precedent for it. So and people, it's uncomfortable to challenge the status quo. But when you have the privilege of not having to do, and so many people have that privilege because queer folk, we're in a minority. And the Trump machine, all of them, because it's not just him, obviously. In fact, I think he is just the mouthpiece. They genuinely want to eradicate us. They genuinely want to make us force everyone back into the closet minimum. But they
Hmm.
truly would not be sad, most of them. And I'm not talking about the people who voted for him. Please, I want to make that distinction very clear. Although some of those people are in that camp, the people that are in power, the people that are part of his organization, they want us gone, and they want the immigrant community. I'm terrified for the immigrant community. That's the other thing. The thought that to use American military to round up immigrants, that should be abhorrent to every American. And yet a lot of people are like, yeah, let's do it. And I see it going, are you freaking kidding me?
Mm.
How is this America? And what do I fear most about the next Trump presidency? That all of the things he said he's going to do, even part of them, are actually going to happen because when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Thank you, Maya
Yeah.
Angelou. It's
Yep.
just true.
I live by that quote.
And I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Sadly, I don't think I am.
Well, so that's actually the next question.
Yep.
What do you hope most about the next Trump presidency? Would that be your answer?
No. Yes, of course, I hope I'm wrong on that. Of course I do. What do I hope most, though? I think there's two equal things. One, and I think that his cabinet nominations are kind of speaking to this, is I hope it's so chaotic he's not able to do anything or do very little because that man drives chaos more than anybody I've ever seen. He just does. It's just chaotic all the time. Unfortunately, this time around, I think he has a lot more people that understand how things work that are around him, and that is not good from driving the chaos, right? I kind of hope that this is the breaking point and you have to hit rock bottom. I hope this is
Sure.
America's rock bottom. I also hope that there's tiny little bright spots. RFK Jr.'s talking about additives in foods and how we need to do, and I'm awesome. I would
Right.
love to see a change there. Give me some of that. And
Right.
do I think the man is batshit crazy? You bet I do. But I also am on what if we can get stuff like that, let's latch on to things like that and improve them and take the opportunity to get some things like that done. I don't
No, I
know.
hear
I
you,
just
Joanne.
got to latch onto the small things and make the best of them.
Right. And one of those things that I've heard that Trump wants to do is put term limits on Congress members. Like
Yes, please.
fundamentally, yes. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like I'm sick and tired of like I respect and support all of Washington's Congress members and
right,
specifically mine and our senators and stuff. But I'm also somebody who's been forced into the establishment, so it's
right.
like I support them and I will support them. There are times where I criticize them, and there are times where I'm like, can we just get somebody new and better? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, okay, people are like, yeah, but what about Patty Murray and what about
love
Maria
them.
Cantwell?
Great.
They're great people. I've met both of them. They're very nice people. They've done a good job, but our system was never meant to be for career politicians. It was meant to have representatives that represent us. And maybe those people are the same people, year after year after cycle after cycle. But when it has become, it's the establishment for a reason, right? And it's hard when you've been a part of making the sausage for so long to see that, oh, hey, maybe there's a different or better way to do things. And I think that there's a certain level of arrogance that comes along with being reelected and not being forced to do better or be
Yeah,
better.
I'm gonna leave it there because I mean, we're hitting on all of the let's change it all. So, man, the next question I have